You ever have one of those mornings where everything's quiet, but not the peaceful kind? I was sitting in my favorite chair, late Saturday morning. Coffee in one hand, music playing low in the background, house perfectly still. My wife, Tabitha, was out on a weekend getaway. A little break, she said. Just 3 days. I said sure, because I wasn't born suspicious. I was made that way. The weird part? I should have been enjoying the quiet. No errands, no chores, not even a Netflix backlog. But that morning, I sat there doing nothing except sipping coffee and thinking about nothing and feeling everything. Then came the doorbell. And that was strange too, because we weren't expecting anyone. I opened the door and saw our daughter, Susie, 19, wrapped in a long black coat like she was attending a funeral nobody had scheduled. "Hi, Dad," she said, voice like cold toast. "Hi, Susie. I wasn't expecting you," I replied. "Yeah, I know." She stepped inside like she knew what I was about to find out, but hadn't decided how to say it yet. As I made coffee for her, caramel macchiato pod, her favorite, my brain spun like the machine. Tabitha and Susie had grown close lately, like roommates who tell each other everything. Me? I was the guy who refilled the windshield washer fluid and asked how their days went. And now here was Susie, kicking off her boots like the messenger of doom with polite intentions. So, I started. "Your mom?" "Yeah, Mom." Just those 2 words, and already I knew this wasn't going to be a conversation. It was going to be a confirmation. She sat down and rubbed the back of her neck like she was ironing out the guilt. "I figured I'd see how you were doing." "Not great," I admitted. "It was a lot. Brutal, even." "She said you didn't have much to say about it," Susie offered, looking anywhere but at me. "What's to say?" I shrugged. "She told me she's spending the weekend with some gym instructor." Said it in passing like she was picking up milk on the way back. Susie winced. "She told you, though. So it's not cheating, right? Because as long as you give someone a calendar invite for the betrayal, it doesn't count. It's 3 days in a hotel room with someone who isn't her husband," I said. "Not a spa retreat. That's not exactly a find-yourself weekend. That's lose us forever." "I mean," she tried. "She'll be back Monday. You can work through it. Maybe it's good. A reset." I looked at her the way a man looks at a fire drill he knows isn't a drill. "No," I said flatly. "It's over." It crossed a line. Susie blinked like she didn't understand the rules had changed. "Wait, the marriage? You're ending it." That's when I realized. People like Tabitha don't just cheat on spouses. They cheat on expectations. They borrow from the future like there's no interest, and when the debt comes due, they're shocked to find it's emotional bankruptcy. Susie sat there stunned, trying to spin it as temporary turbulence, as if 3 days of physical absence wasn't backed by months of emotional eviction. She sipped her drink. "You're taking this really well," she said. "I thought you'd be more upset." I took a long breath and looked her in the eye. "Do you know how to spot a tsunami?" I asked. "The tide goes out first." She furrowed her brows. "What? Never mind. Bad analogy." But I knew better. I was the tide. I'd already pulled back, and she had no idea what was coming next. Sunday evening rolled in like an unpaid bill. Quiet, heavy, ominous. The dinner table was still set, 2 plates, untouched. Her favorite wine open, breathing for hours. Candle wax hardened mid-drip, like even gravity had lost interest in our evening. She didn't notice any of it when she walked through the door, heels clicking across the hardwood like everything was fine. Like she hadn't just spent the weekend with a man whose name she didn't even bother to mention. Like everything was still exactly the way she left it. Except it wasn't. There was no music playing. No folded laundry on the couch. No scuffed sneakers by the door. The hallway smelled like citrus cleaner and silence. Her fingers brushed the wall out of habit. She paused at the empty hook where my keys used to hang. Then, the voice, "Babe." I was already 1,000 mental miles away when she said it. She didn't know it yet, but she had walked into a house that had been scrubbed clean of me. My slippers? Gone. My coffee mug? Gone. That crooked photo of us at the beach, the one she always meant to reframe but never did? Missing. I didn't take everything, just what belonged to me. Even the chair I always sat in for her long-winded monologues about Karen from HR? Gone. Only the dent in the carpet remained. A little ghost of me she didn't realize she'd miss until it was too late. She called my name again, louder this time. A little confused. Not scared. Not yet. She moved through the house faster now, her heels echoing against absence. Closet? Empty. My drawer? Cleaned out. Bathroom cabinet? Just her stuff. The house wasn't ransacked. It was dissected. Surgically. She didn't cry. Not at first. She poured herself a glass of that wine, the one meant for us, and stared at the second glass I had already filled and left untouched. That second glass said everything. She finally spoke into the silence. How long have you been planning this? That's when I knew she understood. This wasn't a tantrum. This wasn't drama. This was intentional. The same way she decided, somewhere between Pilates and pillow talk with her personal trainer, that I was no longer necessary. She didn't cheat with her body. Not yet. But she'd already given away the part of her I used to hold. So I took mine back. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. She didn't sleep that night. I know, because I watched. No, I wasn't outside with binoculars or hiding in the bushes. Months ago, I'd installed a tiny camera in a picture frame. Back when I still cared whether the dog walker was stealing packages. And now? I watched the woman I married stumble around a hollow home, wondering if she'd finally pushed too far. At 2:47 a.m., she sat barefoot in the living room, staring at the dent in the carpet where my chair used to be. She didn't cry. Jocelyn, yes, that's her name, wasn't a crier. She looked angry, not heartbroken, not even regretful. Angry that someone had dared to leave without a dramatic scene. No slam doors. No shouting. No begging. Just gone. The next morning, she went into performance mode. Cleaned the house like it was going to be featured in a lifestyle magazine. Lit candles. Wore that soft sweater she saves for reset days. Even called her mom. He's just being overly sensitive, she told her. Probably having some midlife crisis. I muted the feed. I couldn't stomach the part where she starts rewriting history. Then she texted me. Del, this isn't funny. You're being ridiculous. You took your electric razor? Really? Call me. I didn't respond. Instead, I sent her a package. Inside, a single Polaroid from our trip to Maine. The one where I got stung by a jellyfish and she laughed for an hour straight. On the back, I wrote, "You left me first. Remember that." I tracked it until it hit her doorstep. Then I shut the feed off. I didn't need to see her open it. I already knew what her face would look like: guilt, confusion, and the creeping horror of realizing that consequences had finally RSVP'd. The thing about vanishing is it takes preparation. Disappearing isn't something you do on a whim. It's not throwing a suitcase in the trunk and driving west until the guilt wears off. No, if you're going to vanish with dignity and not end up begging for forgiveness in a Facebook comment section, it takes planning. I didn't pack when I left Jocelyn. I'd been packing for months. I opened a new bank account under my middle name. Transferred just enough money each week that it wouldn't set off any marital alarms. Bruce, an old college buddy with a reputation for harmless schemes and excellent fake mustaches, let me register a P.O. box under his business address. Another state. Clean. Sold a few vintage vinyls online. Quietly. The kind Jocelyn never listened to anyway. She was more into curated playlists with names like Mood for Mischief. I kept the cash in a fireproof box in the back of our guest closet, behind the unopened yoga mat she definitely needed. She never noticed. Why would she? By then, I was furniture to her. Useful, quiet, and visible. If I'd grown ivy across my back and become part of the decor, she might have finally seen me. I spent my Tuesdays building an exit. While Jocelyn was off at her strategy meetings with Everett, her boss with the 2 white teeth and suspiciously flexible schedule, I was creating a soft landing for myself. Funny how she never asked what I did with those Tuesday nights. She just assumed I waited around like an obedient houseplant, missing her with wide leaves and zero judgment. That's the thing about people who lie well. They forget others can lie too. And then one morning, the inevitable. Jocelyn left the house in a panic. Around 10:15 a.m., keys trembling in her hand. Same sweater from last night, eyes twitchy. I still had access to the garage security feed, the one I installed after she left the back gate open 3 nights in a row and blamed raccoons. She didn't head to work. Didn't even make a coffee stop. She drove straight to my sister Lauren's house. Now, Lauren and I, let's just say, we weren't the talk on the phone every week siblings. But she's the only one in the family who ever looked at Jocelyn the way people look at a suspiciously clean crime scene. Lauren always said Jocelyn had too much polish. Said it like an insult, like Jocelyn was a used car with a new wax job. She never trusted her. I guess good instinct runs stronger in sisters than spouses. Jocelyn showed up all smiles. Knocked on the door like she was dropping off muffins. Said she was just checking in because I'd been off lately, maybe having a midlife spiral. Lauren didn't say much. Just offered her tea. The good kind, the kind we save for guests we don't like but want to impress. Sat her down. Listened. Then refused to answer a single question about where I was. I got the footage later. Lauren recorded the whole thing. Sent it to me with a one-line caption. She doesn't get it. Not even a little. Jocelyn laughed. Said I was dramatic. Said I'd be back once I calmed down. She performed. She tried to make my disappearance look like a bad mood. A mantrum. But Lauren didn't buy it. And when she didn't play along, Jocelyn lost her charm like a flipped switch. You're not helping your brother, Jocelyn snapped. This is our marriage, not yours. That right there, that's when it clicked. Jocelyn wasn't scared of losing me. She was scared of losing the version of me that made her life easier. The guy who kept the tires inflated, the fridge full, and the excuses plausible. I wasn't her partner. I was her convenience. 3 weeks. That's how long it took for the noise to stop. Not outside, cars still honked, kids still screamed about nothing important, and someone 2 houses down still believed leaf blowers were appropriate at 7 a.m. No, I'm talking about her noise. The calls. The texts. The guilt-shaped breadcrumbs she started dropping like I was some lost hiker in a forest she helped burn down. First week, she tried charm. Can we just talk? I miss you. Let's not be dramatic. You always said we could survive anything. Second week, it turned to confusion. I'm just trying to understand why you're acting like this. You're punishing me for something we never even defined. Are you really willing to throw away everything? By the third week, it was desperation. Please, just tell me what you want. I made a mistake. I panicked. Are you seeing someone else? Just tell me the truth. That one made me laugh out loud. Because of course that was the fear. Not losing me, the person, the soul, the husband who spent 10 years making her life function like a luxury sedan with free oil changes. No, the fear was that someone else might now benefit from all that invisible work. She didn't miss me. She missed the infrastructure. Meanwhile, I was staying at a place with no infrastructure whatsoever. A tiny cabin on a friend's wooded lot, the kind of getaway where the Wi-Fi barely worked, the coffee came from a French press you had to negotiate with, and the water heater groaned like it had PTSD. It was perfect. No one there knew me as Jocelyn's husband. I wasn't the quiet guy, or the sweet one, or the husband who puts up with so much. I was just Delaware. A man in his late 30s with a beard and a stare that made people think twice before asking too many questions. I spent my mornings chopping what I didn't need to chop and my evenings writing notes I didn't plan to send. One of them said, she thought the loudest part of the breakup would be my anger. But the loudest part is the silence I left behind. That's the thing about people like Jocelyn. They expect explosions. They count on them. Actually, something dramatic that they can twist into their version of the story. He screamed, he left, he was unstable. But I didn't give her that. I gave her nothing. And nothing, it turns out, echoes longer than any door slam. She started reaching out to mutual friends, of course. The group chat with the couples we used to vacation with? Suddenly active again. Photos of sunsets. Remember this trip? How's everyone doing? Like maybe if she stirred enough memories, I'd show up. Like a ghost summoned by nostalgia and filtered beach pictures. I didn't. Then she tried my sister again. She's unraveling, Lauren texted me after another visit. Not sad. Just confused. Like she's the victim of a bad plot twist. Victim? That word scratched at something inside me. Because Jocelyn had mastered victimhood the way some people master instruments. She could pluck a guilt chord like a violinist. Cry on command. Apologize without actually saying sorry. I remembered one night, months before I left, when I confronted her about a strange message on her lock screen. Just initials, EM, but the preview? That told a bigger story. Had a dream about you again. Let's grab coffee and see where it goes. She'd said, without missing a beat, I can't help what people dream about me. She even smiled when she said it. I stood there holding my toothbrush like a sword I didn't know how to swing, trying to decide if she was being clever or careless. Turns out it was both. But now, all that cleverness had dried up. She was circling her own empty house, talking to herself and echoes and wondering how the guy who always folded her towels into thirds had managed to fold his whole life into an exit strategy. I didn't block her number. That would have given her something to be outraged about. Instead, I muted it. She kept trying. Voice messages. Some long. Some one sentence. One hit me sideways. I saw your socks under the bed. I didn't move them. That was the whole message. And it gutted me more than I expected. Because of all the ridiculous things to survive, the books, the dishes, even the half-used bottle of my cologne, it was the socks that remained. Wrinkled. Sad. Alone. But I didn't go back. Because here's the thing about silence, it's not just the absence of sound. It's space. Space to hear yourself think. To grieve without interruption. To finally stop explaining your hurt to the person who caused it. The longer I stayed quiet, the more her world started slipping out of sync. I got an email from her boss, Everett, of all people. Hey Dell, I don't mean to intrude, but Jocelyn hasn't quite been herself lately. If there's anything we can do. I didn't reply, but I took a screenshot and labeled it evidence_of_decline.jpg. That's when I knew. The cracks were forming, not just in her facade, but in the audience that used to clap when she lied. People were starting to wonder. Starting to ask, where's Dell? And more importantly, why did he leave so quietly? Jocelyn had built her persona on the assumption that I'd always stay, that I'd always return, that love meant loyalty even to the point of self-erasure. But I wasn't erasing myself anymore. I was etching myself into a new chapter. And for the first time in years, I wasn't doing it quietly to keep the peace. I was doing it deliberately, without noise, without spectacle, just a steady hand, a clear voice, and the kind of silence that speaks volumes. Funny thing about silence, it rattles louder than noise ever could, especially when you leave it echoing in a house someone thought they'd always control. Jocelyn wasn't unraveling because I left. She was unraveling because I hadn't come back. That's not the same thing. See, when you vanish with purpose, it's like flipping the light switch in a room full of mirrors. People start seeing themselves, and most don't like what looks back. It had been almost 2 months since I left, and she still hadn't filed for divorce. Still hadn't changed the locks. Still hadn't updated the framed photo in the hallway, the one of us smiling in Charleston, back when I thought her love language was loyalty and not strategic neglect. I wasn't hiding anymore. I'd set up shop in a temporary apartment across town. Sparse furniture, second-hand everything, and more peace than I'd had in years. It didn't have her candles or her curated playlists, but it had quiet. And in that quiet, I found clarity. And clarity, in case you're wondering, is what revenge is made of. Not anger. Not impulse. Clarity. So I called my lawyer. His name's Warren. Graying at the temples. Wears mismatched socks. The kind of guy who doesn't smile much, but you'd trust him to carry your parachute. I don't want a war, I told him. I just want the exit to be mine. Warren leaned back and steepled his fingers. You've got leverage? I slid a flash drive across the table. Timestamps. Screenshots. Location data. Phone backups. The works. Warren raised one eyebrow. You build a case. I built an insurance policy. He plugged it into his laptop and took a few minutes to scroll. Every so often, he'd nod or make a low sound in his throat like someone taste-testing something sour. When he finished, he closed the laptop gently. She's going to regret underestimating you. She already does. Here was the plan. I wasn't going to fight for the house. Not openly. That's what she'd expect. A battle over square footage and paint swatches and who bought the better dining room set. She'd been nesting in that place like a smug little cardinal, thinking it gave her the high ground. But here's the twist. I didn't want the house because of what it was. I wanted it because of what she thought it meant. Ownership. Status. Control. She thought the house was her stronghold. Her territory. Her fortress. So I decided to walk right through the front gate, not with anger, but with strategy. The opportunity came on a Thursday. She called me. I didn't answer, but she left a voicemail. I know we're weird right now, but there's a leak in the ceiling again, and I have no idea how to fix it. Can you just come look at it? You ever hear someone try to sound casual while begging? It's a beautiful sound. I called her back. Short. Calm. Sure, I said. I'll swing by in the morning. I showed up at 8:15 a.m. sharp. She opened the door in a sweatshirt she used to wear on our grocery runs. Hair pulled back. No makeup. The kind of outfit she never used to let me see her in unless we were having a pajamas and pity party kind of night. The moment she saw me, she softened. Thanks for coming, she said. Don't thank me yet, I replied. Let's look at the damage. The leak was minor. I fixed it in 20 minutes. But while I was up there, hands busy, voice quiet, she started talking. Classic Jocelyn tactic. Small talk is a way to pull focus. Distract. Reframe. I've been thinking about you, she said. Okay. And how we ended up like this? We didn't end up like anything, I said. You chose this. I just finally agreed. She looked like she wanted to argue, but didn't know where to start. That's the trouble with people who live in fiction. They need scripts. I'd stopped reading from hers. When the work was done, I went to leave. That's when she asked it. Are you seeing someone? I turned slowly. Does it matter? She blinked. Of course it matters. I tilted my head. You didn't seem to care when it was you who had someone. That silence? Delicious. She stammered something, but I'd already stepped past her. Thanks for the coffee, I said, even though she never offered it. Later that afternoon, I submitted the paperwork. Warren served her 3 days later at work. I didn't have to see it, but I heard about it. Her assistant emailed me unsolicited. She looked shocked, like she didn't think you'd actually go through with it. Of course she didn't. People like her rarely believe they're replaceable, especially not by silence and paperwork. But here's the kicker. I offered her the house. Full rights. No strings. And you'd think she'd be thrilled, right? Wrong. She was suspicious. Because I wasn't taking anything else. No car. No couch. No fight. Just my records. My books. My dog, Waffles. Yes, the little guy came with me, tail wagging like he knew this was the right move all along. And still, she texted, why are you giving me everything? I waited a full day before responding. Because everything you're getting isn't what you lost. Then I blocked her. Because the real revenge wasn't in screaming. It wasn't in lawyers or settlements or even in taking the house out from under her. It was in letting her keep it. Letting her sit in it. Letting her live inside the very place where she watched a man love her deeply and slowly, and then disappear with nothing but a flash drive and a backbone. Letting her stare at the dent in the carpet and the hooks without keys and the empty chair that used to hold someone who stayed long after he should have gone. That was her house now, and every square foot of it whispered a name that didn't belong to her anymore. The morning after she was served, I took Waffles for a long walk along the ridge trail that overlooks the river. Fog hung low, softening everything. It was the kind of quiet that doesn't just hush the world, it hushes your soul. And I needed that. Because when you finally follow through on leaving someone who never thought you would, there's a strange kind of ache that settles in. Not regret. No, not even close. But the ache of shedding a life you carried for too long. You don't walk away from a marriage without feeling the weight shift. Even if the load was made of resentment and secondhand silence. There's no parade when you become a ghost on purpose. And let me be clear, I wasn't haunting Jocelyn. I was healing myself. But healing's funny. It doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it stings. Sometimes it shows you things about yourself that you were too busy being mistreated to notice. Like how much of my personality had been rewired just to avoid her moods. How often I paused in doorways and rehearsed sentences in my head to avoid triggering a 5-day Cold War. Or how I hadn't cried in front of anyone in over 4 years, not because I hadn't felt the urge, but because I knew she'd either roll her eyes, or worse, look bored. And now? Now I was learning to cry without shame. That trail, winding, muddy, half abandoned by hikers since summer ended, became my therapist. The trees didn't interrupt. The birds didn't offer unhelpful advice. And Waffles? He just trotted beside me, occasionally glancing back like he was making sure I didn't disappear too. That was the irony, wasn't it? I had vanished from her life. But I was finally reappearing in my own. 3 days after the papers hit her desk, she called Lauren. Left a message, then 2 more. Said she was concerned about me. Wanted to make sure I was okay. Lauren didn't call her back. Instead, she sent me a text. She's unraveling fast. Started posting Bible verses on her story. The blessed but broken kind. I laughed. The same woman who once called Sunday school emotional MLM was now quoting Psalms between photos of avocado toast. Classic Jocelyn. Always curating the pain for likes. That weekend, she posted a long caption under an old picture of us, one I hadn't seen in years. It was from our 3rd anniversary. A rooftop dinner in New Orleans. She was wearing red. I was sunburnt and happy. She wrote, "You never know what someone means to you until they're gone. Grateful for the memories, even if the ending hurt." The comments rolled in. "Stay strong, babe. Sending love and light. Men don't know what they lose until it's too late." I didn't comment. Didn't message. Didn't even take a screenshot. Because her grief wasn't real, it was public relations. She wasn't mourning me. She was mourning the collapse of a narrative where she always came out ahead. And here's the strange thing about grief performance. Eventually, the audience leaves. By week 3, she stopped posting altogether. She also stopped answering her boss's calls. I heard through a friend at her office that she'd started showing up late, missing meetings, zoning out during presentations. The woman who once ran staff like a cruise director with a clipboard was now drifting. Meanwhile, I was thriving in the silence. I learned to cook again. Badly at first. Burnt rice. Undercooked chicken. But no one complained. No one passive-aggressively ordered takeout while claiming it was just easier. I didn't have to impress anyone. I just had to feed myself and the little dog that never left my side. I even signed up for a woodworking class at the community center. Tuesday nights. 5 people. No pressure. First thing I made. A small keepsake box. Nothing fancy. Just 4 corners and a lid. But it was solid. My instructor said, "You build steady." And for some reason, that nearly made me cry. Because I used to build carefully, tiptoeing around someone's moods, needs, tempers. Now, I was building steadily. For me. Then came the letter. An actual letter. In the mail. In Jocelyn's handwriting. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity is persistent, and the envelope was thick. Inside was a page and a half. Torn at the end, like she got tired or couldn't figure out how to stop gracefully. Dell, I don't know what version of me you see now, but I promise you, it's not the one I meant to become. Somewhere along the way, I got tired. Resentful. I felt small, even when I had everything. And that's not your fault. I know I hurt you. I know I made you feel invisible. I thought you'd always stay. That's my sin. I counted on your loyalty more than I respected your heart. You didn't deserve the way I shrank you. You didn't deserve the silence. Or the sarcasm. Or the way I laughed at your softness instead of holding it like a gift. I see that now. I just wish I'd seen it sooner. If you're reading this, I guess I just want to say I'm sorry. Not to fix it. Not to win. Just to finally say it. Jay. I folded it carefully and put it in the back of the keepsake box. Not as a treasure. Not as a threat. Just as a record. She finally said sorry. And while it didn't fix anything, it settled something in me. I didn't reply. Because healing doesn't always come with a reply. Sometimes, healing looks like standing at the edge of the river, your dog by your side, a new journal in your backpack, and the sun rising on a life where you no longer have to be small to keep the peace. I wasn't a ghost anymore. I was a man who stayed quiet long enough to hear the truth come back to him. And that, my friend, is what healing actually sounds like. About 2 weeks after the letter, I got a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. I almost deleted it. Then I heard the voice. Dell, it's Rory. Yes, that Rory. The man Jocelyn said wasn't a threat. The friend, who wore tailored suits and always hugged her too long. The one she said, and I quote, doesn't even like married women. Well, apparently he liked mine just fine. I know this is weird, he said, but I think we should talk. Man to man. I laughed so hard I choked on my coffee. But I called him back. Not for closure. For curiosity. We met at a quiet bar in a part of town neither of us had reason to visit. I wore a simple shirt. He wore a blazer like this was an interview. It's about Jocelyn, he said, as if that wasn't already obvious. I gathered. She's not doing well, he admitted. She told me you filed. And then she shut down. Said she needed space. Canceled the engagement. So it fell apart. Good. But then he added, I didn't know she was still married. That stopped me cold. You didn't ask? He looked ashamed. She told me it was over. She said you were just roommates. That she was waiting for the paperwork. I didn't reply. I just nodded slowly. He looked down at his drink. You don't owe me anything. But if there's anything I should know, anything she left out. I smiled politely. No, Rory. This is your chapter now. And I left. Because sometimes, the best revenge is letting the next guy find out on his own. The divorce went through on a Monday. It was uneventful. No courtroom drama. Just Warren's quiet nod and a signature on the dotted line. Congratulations, he said. I didn't celebrate right away. I let it breathe. Then, the following Saturday, my sister threw what she called an unmarriage party. Small group. Backyard fire pit. A chocolate cake that said you may now resume breathing. We laughed until we cried. Someone brought old photos. One friend handed me a framed poster that said, better alone than reduced. Midway through the night, Lauren pulled me aside. She heard about this. I didn't ask how. She texted me. Said she thought it was tasteless. Of course she did, I muttered. Jocelyn hated being excluded from stories, especially ones where she wasn't the protagonist. She wanted to know if you were dating someone. And what did you say? Lauren smirked. I said, he's finally dating himself. Best gift I got all year. Weeks passed. Then months. And I started building again. Not houses, not plans. Me. I joined a mentorship program. Taught teenagers how to use power tools and self-respect. I took waffles on weekend hikes. And for the first time in forever, I learned what it felt like to sleep without bracing for impact. One night, I got an email. From her. Subject line. I don't expect a response. She was moving. Selling the house. Said it held too many shadows. Wanted to know if I wanted anything before she left. Memories, books, maybe that old sweatshirt you loved. I responded once. Keep it all. The house, the shadows, the sweatshirt. I'm already home. She didn't reply. But a week later, her sister messaged me. Said Jocelyn had been distant. Sad. She finally admitted it, the sister said. She said, he didn't just leave me. He erased me. And she wasn't wrong. Because she'd spent years shrinking me down to a manageable version of myself. And now? Now I existed at full height. It came full circle in the spring. I was at the hardware store, buying paint. Soft gray, something calm. A woman tapped me on the shoulder. It was Jocelyn. No makeup. No jewelry. Just her. Smaller. Not physically, spiritually. Hi, she said. Hey. I'm not here to make a scene. Wouldn't matter if you did, I replied. I've got nothing left to give it. She smiled faintly. I just wanted to say. I get it now. I nodded. That's good. Took you longer than it took me to leave. I hope you're happy. I looked her in the eyes, really looked, and said something that was absolutely true. I am. And that was it. No dramatic ending. No final plea. No late-night texts. Just two people standing in the paint aisle, surrounded by colors and choices, and only one of them finally understood what it meant to rebuild something without needing to explain the ruin. As I walked away, waffles in tow, a strange peace settled in my chest. She had always expected me to stay broken. But I didn't break. I redesigned. And that was the cruelest revenge of all. Not that I left. Not that I healed. But that I became someone who didn't need her to remember who he was.